Hi there, and welcome to another episode of 70 by 70 Retirement. I'm Josh.
And I'm Petra.
Today we're going to talk about how we decided that it was a time for a change, meaning how we decided that we were going to retire. And we're going to talk about the 7 questions we used to decide to reclaim our life.
Hi, we're Josh and Petra, early retirees traveling the world slowly while sharing honest insights about retirement and life on the road. Join us and share in the journey.
So when is the best time to retire? Is it a certain age? Is it 50, 60, 65, 70, right? We used to think about age as one of those retiring factors, right? That we had to hit a certain age. And I think that's because we're kind of taught that in society, right? You draw Social Security at a certain age, you get your pension at a certain age, your 401k retirement's at a certain age. So that's definitely one way that we viewed retirement as well. Some people might think of retirement as a certain number in the bank, like a certain dollar amount before they can retire. So having a certain amount of money is also something that is kind of instilled in us within our society. So like age and dollar amounts that would be comfortable to retire on. But really, the more that we started to think about it, we realized that we don't have to live that way. Like we can look at retiring before we hit that 62, right? So it has really nothing to do with age. And where we're at in our life, and we're staying like the current course of our life, what is it costing us versus retiring? And so what we've learned is that people don't necessarily retire late because of financial plans. They retire because they're waiting on on certainty. They're waiting for certainty to be in their life, but that certainty may not necessarily come.
So when we say retire, we're not talking about disappearing from life. We're not talking about just locking ourselves in our houses and never participating in life anymore. We also don't mean sitting still or becoming irrelevant. To us, retirement means we're going to stop trading in our time and energy for obligations we've outgrown. It means we're going to stop waking up owned by a schedule we didn't design. It means we will choose what we work on and how we live. We don't see retirement as stopping. We see it as reclamation.
We've met people younger than us, so maybe like in their 30s and their 40s, and their energy, they're drained from life. But we've also met people in their 70s who have a lot of energy and are living better than they ever have. So that's when we stopped really looking at age as a defining moment of when we are going to retire, because we felt like age didn't really tell us anything. That energy was what we were looking for. So that energy was telling us everything. And options, right? So instead of being in the rat race every day of what we've been doing, what options do we have to reclaim our life and to retire and live the way that we want to? And it's not necessarily that age or that birthday number, 62, or whatever you might have in your mind. And the things that we've had in our mind, like that age number, that's not what's giving us clarity. So we're done kind of waiting for that number, and we are moving forward. Mm-hmm. But these are the questions that we've asked ourselves when we realized we can do what we want to do and retire early.
So the first question that we pondered was, are you tired and stressed more than you're not? So for me, the answer was a clear yes. I felt way too stressed out, way too tired. I was working, I've kind of trimmed back, and that's why I say I was now. We're not fully there, but we're getting very close now. I was working full-time. I had a 40-hour-a-week full-time job. I was working another 24 to 30 hours a week, doing a part-time job. And then every other minute of my existence was working towards trying to get a personal business making more money at it. And unfortunately, I felt really overwhelmed. It made me exhausted, and I didn't feel like I had enough recovery time to come back and feel rejuvenated by all of it.
You know, same thing for me. I had a full-time job, and then we had our side business that I worked at. And in between that, I was also working on a doctorate degree. And so it felt like every spare moment we had, we were doing something. We didn't get a whole lot of time to relax. And I can't say that it wasn't things that we didn't enjoy. I enjoyed my full-time job, and I enjoyed doing what I did with my side business. But it's the stress of doing that and keeping up all of that on a regular basis. I mean, I used to say, heck, you can do anything for a short period of time, but the longer you have to keep up a certain pace for a longer period of time, you do become more stressed. And so, yes, we felt tired and stressed, and it wasn't necessarily, the weekends, we were still busy. So we couldn't count on the weekends to de-stress. Going on vacation. When we went on vacation, yes, we had some relaxing moments, but at the same time, we were going to new places, exciting places. We wanted to check everything out, do as much as we can, and then by the time we got home, we were exhausted again because we didn't use that time to decompress.
So for question number 2, we had, are you working harder but have diminished returns? Well, that goes right back to what Petra was talking about.
Yeah. And so we were putting in, more effort, more hours, taking on more responsibility, because again, we were trying to hit a certain number, right? We were trying to make sure we had a certain number for retirement, and that's what we were aiming for. But again, when you feel stressed and tired, it also impacts your life and your health in other ways. And so, yes, we felt like we were having diminished returns because we weren't living life.
And just add on to what she's talking about. I mean, the personal business was very successful early on, and it seemed like as we added more and more layers to it, it just was not as, wasn't working out financially for us. And so that added more stress because now we're working even harder to try and figure out what we did right the first time. And now it was very stressful. And then on top of that, my full-time job, they're always expecting at work, they're expecting you to do more every year, which is kind of crazy. After a while, you're just like, how much more can I do? How much more blood can you squeeze out of this rock,
I know. And when you're a nurse and you're working the floor, they just add more and more to you. And you're like, I don't even have time to go have a lunch or take a break or go to the bathroom, So the next question is, are you worried about having enough money to retire? And we did. We kind of talked about that. Right? We had that number in our mind that we were working so hard to get to try to achieve, to retire and live comfortably, here in the United States. But we started to look at things a little bit differently.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of things that I was thinking of when I, thought about this question. Well, the first thing was a long time ago, I think, who even knows where it came from, whether it's a Forbes article or what. They recommended like $1.6 to $2.1 million in savings before you could quit, and we were not close to that, by the way. I don't think we would have made it. But then also, like Petra just mentioned, living in the U.S. is incredibly expensive, and when you have you're making much more income here, but it's a bit like living in California in a way. If you think about it, they get paid more, but their cost of living is so high, they're not actually saving much at all. And that's kind of where we were. We're not in California, but we're kind of in the same space here in Indiana, where we're making a fair amount, but our cost of living is high enough that we're not really making much headway on our savings plan. We did, don't get me wrong, I'm happy for what we were able to save, but it wasn't anywhere close to what.
$2 million that
No.
was recommended.
No, we
Yeah.
weren't going to make it.
Yeah.
So the fourth question is, are you afraid to leave work but not in love with the work anymore? So for me, I can say that I did feel that a little bit. It wasn't so much leaving work as much as I kind of hit my limit as far as to how far I could advance in my role at my current position, and I knew that if I wanted a real substantial pay raise, I'd have to move somewhere else. So I was a little bit afraid because I didn't want to have to start over. I didn't want to have to rebuild my status. I had seniority, or I do have seniority where I work currently, so I didn't want to give up that seniority and have to do it all again. But I'm not in love with the work anymore. I have kind of soured on it. So I was a bit afraid to leave my job and having to start over somewhere else, so I just kind of stayed put. And I had also kind of over time kind of lost interest in the work itself.
And for me, this is a little bit different because I loved where I worked. I love the people I worked with. I think sometimes, because I taught the same topic from semester to semester, you get so used to what you're teaching that sometimes you feel a little less challenged at it. And so I think looking at more of a challenge. Now, I am lucky enough that I get to stay with where I was teaching, but getting the challenge of teaching in a different course, different content that I can do as I travel full time. And the thing is I love my place, and I could have said, hey, I want to teach other subjects, because we're given that opportunity. I chose not to seek those out. And when we started down this line of questioning, and can we go and do this thing that we love to do, which is travel, and that meant I was giving up that content that I had been teaching, for close to 10 years. I can't say that I mourned that long over it. Of course, you feel like you have ownership over that, but very quickly I realized, that's okay. I'm letting that go, because the place where I work is allowing me to be challenged and grow in a different way and still stay with them, if that makes any sense, right? So it wasn't necessarily the place. It was more about not feeling challenged. The next question, do you see your life feeling brighter towards the future?
I think I kind of mentioned that a little bit. Nursing has been very good to me, but at the same time, I didn't really see a good future for me. Physically, it's been really demanding on me, and as I've gotten older, I've really started to feel that. So for me, it was a case of my body was telling me year after year. I've been hearing it from my body for about the last 5 years. Different things have cropped up that have not gotten better, only gotten worse physically, and so I just thought, this is probably not a good long-term career move. And I've watched people who stayed in my field and into their 60s, and man, it just took a massive toll on their bodies, and I knew that I probably wasn't going to be able to survive, the way I had hoped to survive. I physically would have been really run down. I was probably eyeing a few, knee, hip, shoulder, whatever surgeries, and I'm just glad to come to the realization that I didn't really want that in my life. For me, I don't see my life looking brighter as long as I'm staying in this current trajectory where I'm working as a nurse.
And I think for me, I kind of looked at this question as, we're considering doing this different life adventure. Do I see that as a brighter future looking forward than where I am currently in the past. Now, you do have to be somewhat careful because you might get into like the grass is greener on the other side type of thinking. So, we really had to like stop and kind of think about and talk through what this life is really going to look like, because we know it's not always going to be greener on the other side, right? And we know that we're going to face some challenges and some setbacks, and we might feel the loneliness because we're out there doing this by ourselves. We don't necessarily have our close friends and family, like right here, be like, hey, you want to go get some dinner? I'm having a hard night. Let's get together and talk about it, that kind of thing. Because we're going to be, several hours away on a plane. But the thought of this next chapter and what we're going to experience far outweighs some of what I think, might be the drawbacks. And so, yes, like feeling brighter as I look forward, I do.
Question number 6. Are you afraid of who you will be without your work identity? So no. I'm going to be perfectly fine without my identity. My title does not define me at all. I will be very happy to be away from all of the things that are associated with that title. All the training, and it's relentless, and all of the expectations, and they don't stop either. And then the additional stuff, which just keeps on coming, and there's just a pile on pile on pile, and it's not, I'm not going to miss that, no. I feel like the direction we're heading now, where we're semi-retired, early retirement, whichever, and in foreign lands doing the things that we've grown to love on our free time, then yes, I'm much more inclined to want to do that and let the other stuff go.
Yeah. As far as, myself, my work identity, as I had mentioned, I am going to get to stay with my employer just in a different role. Instead of a full-time professor, I'm going to be adjunct. And what does that mean? I still get to create and teach this content that has become very close to my heart, which was a focus of my doctorate work. So that's really nice. But some of those other things that came along with that identity as a professor, such as all the different meetings that you have to go through and doing all the stuff that you need to for, like if I was trying for tenure, all the stuff I have to do for that, I'm not going to miss that, at all. So it's about teaching nursing, and then also that connection still with the people I work with and the students that I'll still have. But I don't think like my role or a title, maybe like the title, I could care less about. The role of educator, someday I guess that will not be on my plate anymore. But for right now, I'm okay with still doing this, part-time. So for me, I feel like it's a win-win. At some point in time, I know that that no longer will be part of my identity, and I haven't thought about that too much right now. But for right now, I feel like it's a win-win for me.
I did want to just mention while we're having this conversation, if you have been enjoying this, please give us a like or a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. And then click the bell for notifications on any new content that we put out. We'd love to have you along for the ride. Okay. Also, if you have any comments about anything that we're talking about here, please put it in our comment section.
Yeah. And then the last question is about being worried about our health. Are we worried?
Yes, so I think I already mentioned that I was starting to hear the physical complaints about working as a nurse on the floor. So yeah, I am worried for my health. And then also we've had friends and family our age and even younger who have had issues, different health issues that have come along, and they've either unfortunately passed or had life-limiting illnesses kind of creep up. And so for me, absolutely, I definitely wanted to maintain my health, because otherwise the whole dream of traveling the world, I wasn't going to be able to do any of that if I was in a hospital bed. So I needed to take the life that I had left, the energy I had left, and get out there and explore the way that I wanted to do for so long.
Yeah. And as well, for me, of course, as Josh had mentioned, we are getting older, and, people our age, younger and our age, do start to develop, serious health issues. Now, myself, I have Crohn's disease, and I've had it since I was 20. I haven't let that limit me with traveling. I still travel. I do have some medical kind of equipment that I need related to my Crohn's disease, and maybe I should be worried about not being able to access supplies when I need it, but I really don't, because people all over the world have Crohn's disease, and they need the same type of medical equipment that I need. So I will be able to get it. But I also know that there's great healthcare systems out there. We can go get checkups. We can have whatever, Dr. Steve, with whatever comes up, right, during that time. And we can get good care out there. So I guess, although I am worried about my health, I am worried about it more in the sense of my health will continue to decline as we age, because it does, right? Over time, it just declines. But I'm not fearful enough to have it impact my desire to go and do what we're going to do, because I can still get care that I need out on the road.
So when is the best time to retire? It's a personal choice. It's not defined by age. It's not defined by the savings you have in the bank. It's defined by you and how you perceive your present trajectory. Is it a positive one? Are you heading in a bright direction? Is it something that makes you feel invigorated to keep going for the next day and have plans for 5 years from now? Or is it, I don't know, I'm not sure about this, and it's maybe time to pivot, because time doesn't slow down. The real risk isn't retiring too early, it's waiting too long and retiring really too late. Letting your body decline and dictate what more your life is going to be. So think about that when you're making, plans for your future.
And so there's something that we think we noticed, that most people don't retire too early. They retire too late. They wait until exhaustion makes that decision for them. Maybe it's resentment starts to build and their health issues starts to decline. And we don't want to leave because we're forced to. We want to leave because we choose to. And that's the big difference for us.
Something that I was thinking about with regard to all of this, and I love professional baseball, and they talk about players that are they just hang around for too long and it's no longer
past their prime.
They're past their prime, right? So when you leave, the best way to exit is when you're on top, and I feel like that's exactly what we're doing. We're both at the top of our game where we are, and this is the ideal time to walk away. We'll be remembered as being, the greatest of all time in whatever field we were in, and they will miss us.
I think, as the young kids say it, right? The GOAT, greatest of all time. We're goats.
That's kind of what I was thinking, is not that I'm that, smug, but we are kind of leaving at the top of our games in these respective fields, and trying something new, and in our minds, something more exciting.
So maybe you can think about these questions that we've brought forth for yourself in order to determine, when do you need to retire? When do you want to retire? Are you at that point? Or is that maybe a couple months, a couple years down the line? But it gives you something to think about. When is retirement best for you? So hopefully this has been helpful to you to consider when would be best for your retirement. We know that these are things that we thought about, and we know now is our go years, our go years to retirement. As Josh had mentioned, if you found this helpful and want to follow along in the journey, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, make some comments, and turn on your notification bell so that you'll get future videos when they are posted, notification of future videos when they're posted. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you in the post. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It may not be relevant, but I thought I'd mention it. Oh. I guess I didn't need to say it that way, did I? Did I ever do that?
No,
Oh,
I think it's fine.
here's Sophie. Hey, Sophie. Put the camera like here, focusing up, so it looks like we're looking down at the camera.
And up our nostrils. That makes sense. It always looks like you've got one eye like in the glass and one, like you've got almost like a lazy eye or something, doesn't it?
That's what I was thinking. I've got this weird over here, this one.
I know, right? Why don't you just stop filming?